Hi, I'm Bob Garrett. Hackensack University Health Network believes that all citizens need to be informed about the important health issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Wells Fargo, Caldwell University, Suez, Ready for the Resource Revolution, Hackensack Meridian Health, Hackensack University Medical Center Foundation, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and by Century 21 Construction. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey, and by Jaffe Communications, where business, media, and government converge in New Jersey.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
We owe it to the country to cover him with clear, open eyes. This isn't about access or normalized, homogenized politics or the pageantry of succession. We need to cover the next president with the same cynicism that the current president was treated to, and with the same zeal and skepticism and doggedness that we expended on, Hillary's emails. Given how unprecedented what is happening is, including his veiled and not so veiled threats against the First Amendment, maybe we need to cover him with more toughness and skepticism.
You saw her right there. You're about to see her right here on camera in our studio here at the Tisch WNET studio. She is Joy-Ann Reid, the host of MSNBC's AM Joy, seen every Saturday from 10 to 12 noon on MSNBC. How you doing?
I'm wonderful, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing great. We had you here, by the way. You are the author of this book. You mind if I...
Oh, no, not at all.
Still relevant, interesting. Fracture. Barack Obama, the Clintons, and the racial divide. Yeah, there might still be a bit of a divide in our country.
A little bit.
So we had you here in the studio talking about the election a while back. Mm-hmm. We saw you right there on your network. Talk to us about what you see as we move into 2017 when this show will be seen again. Where is the country?
You know, it's interesting. One of the things that that Fracture focused on was this sense of backlash that you had both after, we've had them in each of what I call our sort of Reconstruction periods. After the Civil War, you had this period of Reconstruction and sort of attempts at racial reconciliation that resulted in a steep backlash, particularly by white Southerners. Then you have LBJ happen, you have all these advancements in terms of civil rights around race, and then you have this tremendous backlash. It's something like 30 years that eventually drives Democrats into the wilderness, and only Bill Clinton brings them back. And I think after the Obama years, there has been a similar backlash. You've had a lot of Americans see the last 8 years as this wonderful progressive moment. But you had other Americans see it as sort of whisking away the country that they knew. These emphases on rights for African Americans, rights for LGBT Americans, on sort of new ideological ideas, multiculturalism, racial and also religious ecumenism, were disturbing to a lot of Americans. And I think you've seen both in Western Europe and now in the United States a tremendous backlash, a sort of ethno-nationalist backlash that has swept in these governments, both in the UK and now in the US.
With Donald Trump as president, A, what is your greatest concern? And B, what do those who are concerned about the issues that you just described, where do they go and what do they do for the next 4 years?
Well, I think
loaded question, I know.
Yeah, I think Americans have been accustomed to seeing our country as this sort of unique island in sort of the rest of the world. But now we really have to start thinking of the United States as a part of the world, as a part of the West. And what you're seeing across the West, and what concerns me most, is that you see these movements that are basically sort of cloaked in populism about this idea that economically the economic and political elite have taken away sort of the future of the working class. But they've been tied into anti-immigrant sentiments, anti-Islamic sentiments and ethno-nationalist sentiments. And that's sweeping across the West. And now it's here in the United States. The biggest concern I have is that that tremendously benefits Russia as an adversary. Russia has been meddling in these Western governments, meddling in these elections. They did it here, sort of trafficking in made-up news, trafficking in, the kinds of destabilizing things like hacking. And so now that that's happening here, too, and you have in the United States, as in some other Western countries, these sort of pro-Putin governments coming into power, what does that mean for the stability of the West, for the stability of Western democracies? You now have Germany as sort of the last standing sort of pluralistic small d democracy in the West, with the United States going in the direction of Putinism. So I'm very concerned that Donald Trump's international business ties, the affinity of himself and many of his team for Putin and for Russia, what does that mean for the stability of the West? And what does that mean, quite frankly, for an American government to be that tied into an individual's business interests around the world? It's very concerning.
But let me turn it around this way and bring it closer to home. The other side of that, Joy. To what extent Hillary Clinton and many in the Democratic establishment, to what extent did they just miss, if not ignore, a significant portion of this country, disproportionately white, not just all men, some well-educated white women who were drawn to what Donald Trump was selling? And why did they do that?
Yeah, I think that we all missed it. I think that both the media, the political elite, the media elite, and definitely the Clinton campaign missed it. Because I think what we've seen is an over-reliance on data as a predictor of behavior. And what I mean by that is that the Clinton campaign went in with this conceit that we in the media had too, that what the white working class believed and what white voters with a college degree believed and would do were completely divergent. And that as long as you had a settled white college-educated vote, that it didn't matter really that you had this white non-college vote out there because it wasn't large enough to carry Trump into the presidency. So all the decisions the Clinton campaign made, whether it was picking Tim Kaine as a way to govern as opposed to as a winning pick, whether it was trying to go and poach Republican suburban women voters rather than making sure that they had Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
Never went to Wisconsin.
Never went to Wisconsin.
How arrogant was that?
Incredibly. The assumption that you had these states in the bag so that you could spend your time attempting to poach red states rather than nailing down your own state.
Excuse me for interrupting, Joy. What did it say to those people in Wisconsin?
Yeah, and I think what you had was a lot of white working class voters saying, well, Clinton doesn't care about us. You know, with my show, we went to Lorain, Ohio,
I know you did.
And we talked to steelworkers, Democrats who'd voted for Barack Obama, who were all sort of leaning in the direction of Trump because to their mind, anti-trade messages spoke to them. Hillary Clinton didn't.
So stay on that. So the whole thing about the racial, there are people who said if you voted for Trump, you were a racist. But some of them voted for Barack Obama. Isn't that square that for me?
Well, it actually is essentially a vote for change. And the change candidate in any election is who was winning over these white working class voters. So in 2008, when they saw the financial world collapse, they voted against the candidate they voted for the change candidate, against what they saw as the elite. Away from the Bush candidate, right? Away from the Republican Party, who were seen as causing the economic and housing collapse. So Barack Obama was the change candidate. In 2016, Hillary Clinton was the establishment and Trump was the change candidate. But the racial factor is important because whether it's in Western Europe, whether it's in Britain or here, these voters set aside the ethnocentrism, the ethno-nationalism, in some cases the racism and the sexism of the candidate. They set it aside. They were at least willing to vote for somebody who espoused those sentiments. And you are seeing this rise of a sense of sort of racial solidarity among white voters, where if they're not actively voting for someone who they see as advancing the interests of white Americans, of people like them, they're at least willing to set aside those messages to vote for the change candidate and the candidate they think will be anti-trade and anti-immigration.
So what do we do with that? I mean, what do we do with that? I mean, think about that.
I think the risk here is that if you are a person of color, if you are Black, Hispanic, if you are a DREAM Act kid, if you are Muslim, you have very real reasons to be afraid right now, Steve. I don't mean to be alarmist, but there are real reasons to be afraid, both because Donald Trump's election has empowered people who now feel that they have the right to act out against you. You're seeing it happen. There's a thing called Trumping that's taking place in elementary schools, in schools where boys particularly white young boys, feel that they now have the right to abuse children of color, abuse girls, and they say that they call it Trumping. Trump's name has become an epithet to be hurled at people of color. People are literally being assaulted, and the reaction of people on the pro-Trump side is to say that doesn't matter. Ignore it. And so the fact that no one on the Trump side is concerned about or seems to care that this is happening, up to and including Trump himself, who said, well, he didn't cause the divisiveness, that means nothing's going to be done about
Joy,
it.
devil's advocate. I see Trump look into the camera and say, stop, don't do that. And you smile, that's not enough? What? Help us on this.
Yeah.
Because he will argue, A, those people aren't really carrying out the message that he wants is to bring people together. B, he said, stop it. Not enough, you say. And B, then what is? What should he be doing to truly bring people together and try to curtail some of that?
If you ran a campaign in which you led chants of lock her up, in which you said, I'll pay the legal bills of a person at your rally who sucker punched a black protester. If you say, well, back in the day, those people would have been carted off, very George Wallace-like language. If you run a campaign that is actively
Or if he
encouraging,
mocked a disabled person.
mocking
Said
a disabled
he did not,
person. Yeah.
but the videotape is there.
Right, or questioning a judge's fitness to serve because of his Mexican heritage.
Because his parents were Mexican.
That's right. And if that is the kind of campaign you run, looking into the camera one time and sort of gently saying, stop it, it's not even close to enough. Donald Trump has now done 2 thank you rallies.
As we speak right now.
Yeah.
There'll be many more.
Yeah, and in none of those rallies has he called on the white supremacist supporters to back down, saying he doesn't want their support. He's never used the same vigor, the same Twitter use. All of the ways that he communicates, he's never used those in the service of healing. He's only used them in the service of aggrandizement and of whipping up his supporters because he obviously enjoys that kind of endorsement and that kind of adulation. He hasn't used his platforms at all to bring the country together.
So, those of us in the media, you and your colleagues on MSNBC, folks at CNN, folks at Fox, other platforms, those of us in public broadcasting, what do you see our role being if we want to play a meaningful, positive role and be helpful right now?
This is an incredible challenge. The media has never faced a candidate like Donald Trump or indeed a president
He's not a
like
candidate.
Trump. Right. And you've never faced someone who, number one, doesn't use the media in a traditional way. He doesn't give press conferences and may never. He uses things like social media to get around the press. There's no curation of the things he says.
I'm sorry for interrupting. By the time this show airs, I'm hoping that's not accurate.
Yeah.
Meaning
We'll see.
I hope he does
Yeah.
hold a press conference, but go ahead.
Absolutely. It's very difficult to tell whether he will follow through on anything he says because he simply speaks through Twitter, speaks through social media, and also, quite frankly, his tendency to say things that are just false. How do you deal with that when you're in the media? If he says that he did a deal with Carrier, that the facts don't pan out, you have to deal with that falsehood right up front because once he gets his own message out, his supporters are only going to believe him. They're not going to believe us.
So what are we going to do? What do we do to be fair to him, to want him to succeed on behalf of the country, because we are in this together, but also be as skeptical, not cynical, but skeptical, which is our role to be challenging. Go ahead.
It's going to be difficult because I think the media has a symbiotic relationship with Donald Trump. He's also a source of clicks. He's a source of eyeballs, a source of viewers. He entertains the media in a certain way. And the media has this need for him because he won't give as much of himself as a normal politician
And respectfully,
does.
some of your colleagues have had him on and had him on early on.
Yeah.
Unedited, not challenged. You know what I'm talking about.
The unfiltered Trump rally is sort of almost like a drug for the media in general. The tweet by Donald Trump is sort of like a drug, right? To every media writer, every headline writer, those are the only communications he gives you, so everyone sort of drinks them in. I think the media is going to have to wean itself off that drug, and they're going to have to start to train Trump the way he's training us. People need to make the new administration understand that they don't have unlimited access to our airwaves if we don't have at least some access to an interrogatory with the president.
He's good at this.
Yeah. And he's
Donald
better
Trump
at it than most of the media.
He is better. He understands the game.
Yep.
He understands what many in the media. In some ways, I don't want to be an elitist, but I want to think that we in public television have a different approach. But we're part of it. I don't want to. Many of your colleagues will just take them.
Absolutely.
But he's the president, though. It's different. You have to show the level of respect.
And he also has the trust of his supporters in a way that the media doesn't even have close.
Can I plug your show one more time? Do you
Please
mind?
do.
Speaking of branding and plugging, that's
Absolutely.
okay with you?
Absolutely.
When can folks catch MSNBC's AM Joy?
Well, we are on weekend mornings, Saturdays and Sundays, 10 a.m. to noon. And what we're trying to do is to explain Donald Trump. Not just give him lots of airtime, but explain what's going on. We try to be factual. We're definitely trying to be fair. But I think the media also has to be challenging. You have to be challenging.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Great to be here.
Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
There she is, Jenna Wolfe, who is a TV journalist, lifestyle and fitness expert, and the author of Thinner in 30. You look fabulous.
I didn't know where you're going with the F. You spent a long time making your mouth like this. I got nervous. I almost left, but I'm staying, and thank you so much.
And you're making a difference every day in the lives of so many people.
I am trying. It's what's more important is what I say to people. Well, I have my job and I have this. You have nothing if you don't work, is what I say, right? If you don't work, nothing around you will work. And people blow it off, and people say they'll start Monday, and people say they'll start next month or next week. But this is it. This is your life. This isn't dress rehearsal.
When did you know that fitness and a very healthy obsession with fitness was going to be such a big part of your life?
So I had an aha moment probably a little after, a couple years after college, when I realized that the only thing in life that we can control is our bodies. Not the weather, not traffic, nothing else but our bodies. And it's not easy. If you want a thinner stomach, if you want bigger biceps, if you want, you know, bigger legs, whatever it is, you can have that. You have to work for it, and you have to eat right, but you can control your body. And once I realized that it's the only thing we really have control over, I fell in love with helping other people who felt like, well, I can't do it. But you can. All the other things you have to rely on life and other people to help out with, except the one thing that people just seem to want to give up on because they think it's too hard. And I was fascinated by the transformation process, the not just the before and after, the getting from before to after. And when you convince someone else that they have the power to change their own body, it's a wonderful thing, and then I like to help them do it.
And some of the keys in this book, I was talking just about my wife and I, who try to do the right thing, and I told you she works harder than I do. She has a trainer who's very, well, see, you know, you did well, and a bit of a...
Come on, I'm being funny, Steve.
You're being funny, but you're also being accurate.
Only because I know what you do to work out. I'm sorry I had to go there. I took you there. I'm more of a fan of working with a personal trainer who knows your body and really is going to push you, and then you can graduate and do that stuff on your own, rather than tell people what you do. And believe me, I applaud.
I did that in confidence. I did that.
Okay. Steve likes to stand in front of the mirror and just look at himself and do these daily affirmations. And I said, that's not going to get you.
I did not say that. I said I do the stair stepper,
Great.
the elliptical, and I tell you I spin, we call it cycling, twice a week. And that's cardio 6 times a week with the weights. And so, but I don't do it with a trainer who pushes me really hard. And I got the yoga instructor once a week. So what am I not doing right?
All of that stuff is great, and I'm just joking.
Well, my wife has a trainer who's much tougher.
No, I don't love the elliptical. I love the stepper. That's the single greatest thing you can do.
It's much harder.
It's much,
Which
of course.
Why go to the elliptical?
Why we always go take the easier route, right? It's easier to eat kind of crappy food, and it's easier to just skip one day from the gym. And it's all we always do. We want to do the things that are easy. We never get good at the things that are hard for us. I think you're doing everything great. If you ask me, well, what's the difference? I would have to point to the diet. The diet is actually 75 to 80% of the way you look, and it has to go hand in hand with how you move. And if it doesn't, then you're really spinning your wheels, and you're going to be fit, but you're not going to be in the shape that you want to be in.
And talk about that, because in this book, there are some tangible tips. I looked at them, I was like, what's the thing with the water in the morning? It hit me right away. 3 or 4 tangible tips immediately that people can start working on that will make a difference.
Easy. So real quick, the book is set up. people don't want to change. It's hard. Change is like the ugliest thing in the world. It's really difficult, especially as we get older. Nobody wants to change. So I figure, how can people change without changing? Well, if I give you one small thing to do every day, I mean really small, easy, doable things, and you do nothing else but that one, then on day 2, you do 1 and 2.
Right.
And on day 3, 1, 2, 3, then maybe after a month, you have sort of backed your way into changing your approach to fitness and to movement and to eating. So, for example, the water, the sips that you laughed at. We go to sleep.
I didn't laugh at it.
You didn't laugh. You thought it was hard? Or
No, I
difficult
thought it
or
was
odd?
great
Oh,
because it didn't
okay.
seem like a big deal.
Right.
But big impact.
So here's the deal. You go to sleep at night, right? You don't have anything in your system from the time you go to sleep to the time you wake up in the morning. You are completely dehydrated. Completely. You wake up and you have a little coffee, you go for breakfast. You never make up that dehydration.
And I jump right into the machine.
That's
Bad
it.
idea?
Bad idea. First thing, drink water. And I don't want you counting. I don't need you, the ounces in the cups and the 8 ounces of the 8-cup cups. No. Swallow 20 times. It's about 8.5, 9 ounces of water. Anyone can count your swallows. It's a great way to just wake up, curb your appetite right off the bat, get your metabolism going, just let your body know you're rehydrating and you're getting ready to start your day. Then you do nothing else all day, and then on day 2, I give you another tip. And that's sort of the way the book is set up, with a little flair and a sense of humor and all these conversations I have with my parents, where that was the inspiration behind writing this. Some of the conversations I had with them are ridiculous.
What do you mean with your parents? What does that have to do with it?
For example, I came home one day and my dad was literally eating peanuts out of one of those like Costco planter peanut things. And I was like, I couldn't even get the words out. I was like, what are you doing? And my dad says to me, why? These are so light. How could they be fattening? And I was like, how could I have come from you? Like, how did you make me? Like, we're so different.
You weren't saying that.
No, so I wrote
You were
it.
thinking about it. You wrote
I
it.
basically
But
wrote it in a book.
Tell everyone what the problem is with peanuts from the trough.
You know what I'm saying.
Yes,
like, it's just, you don't...
It doesn't look, it looks innocuous.
Of course.
But
hand after hand, it's mindless eating, and mindless eating is going to get you every time. And there's nothing wrong with nuts. It's good fat. You really want to get some good fat into your system, but people don't know where to stop. And so, avocados are great. I'll have 12. So you have to be careful. You can't possibly burn all the calories that you consume, so you really do have to watch what you eat on a daily basis.
Could you do the carb thing for us? Put carbs in perspective, please.
So I am never under the umbrella of giving up something entirely. I don't ever want you to get rid of a food group. So one of the steps in here that I say is cut off the simple carbohydrates after 6 p.m. The things that your body will just crash through and then you'll need more. No sugar, no flour, no wheat, no pasta, no white rice. You can have complex carbohydrates, sweet potato and vegetables and grains and things like that.
Your body can do something with that.
Your body can absolutely do something like that. Use it as energy, right? That it doesn't need to replenish right away. You'd be surprised. You've worked all day to try to be good with your diet. You focus so much. You go to the gym first thing in the morning. Nighttime comes. You go out for dinner. The first thing they put down, bread basket. It's so good. Whatever they do to that butter, how do they make it so good? So you don't eat the bread basket. You don't order the pasta. You don't get the big comfort meal that you really crave at the end of the day that you've worked so hard to follow your diet. So if you just stop eating that comfort food, I say from 6 p.m., most of us go to bed 9, 10 o'clock at night. You give your body a chance to work on the other healthier foods that you put in your system. You'd be surprised how much weight you can actually lose that way.
The Jenna Wolfe Show.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So there are very, very few times in life where you could dive into an untapped space, right? Everything's been invented. Technology is so far ahead of where you and I are ever going to get to. I don't even understand, like, Snapchat is, like, too far ahead of me, right? But what no one is doing right now is a full show on social media. People do Facebook Lives all the time. They turn the camera on themselves whenever the moment strikes. But no one is doing actual content, daily content, an actual show from a significant amount of time every single day that people turn into. 5 years from now, I predict that content on social media, live streaming content, will be where Netflix and Amazon was 5 years ago, where people laughed and said, why would you put a show on Amazon? That's where you buy things. No one's going to watch. And now look, I mean, they're winning Golden Globes. That's where live streaming content is going to be. Now, maybe I'm jumping in a little too early. People aren't really sure they understand it, but I do a 4-hour show 4 hours of live streaming show every day. Sometimes we walk around. Sometimes we interview people. It's loose, it's open. We interact with people asking questions all the time, which you can't really yet do on a television platform. And I love it. I'm exhausted. I basically have to pick me up off the floor. But we hit every topic. All the things I didn't have an opportunity to do at the Today Show, just because it's short periods of time, segments are so short, I can have an hour-long conversation with someone and really get into the heart and soul of what they do and why they do it. And I love it, and it's a lot of fun.
By the way,
And so
you're
that's
at
what
the
we're
Today
doing.
Show from what years?
I was there from 2007 until last year, so I was there about 10 years. Crazy.
You've had a fascinating career already, and
Yeah.
you're still doing great things, and
Thank
you continue
you.
to.
Thank you
And
very
the most
much.
important thing about you that,
Yeah.
that strikes me is that you really just want to help people.
That's it. And I'm doing it now with kids. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I want them to see that I'm going to the gym. I don't want to say, hey, I'm going to the gym. I want you to see that I run around and I move. And you were talking about that with your kids. You need to be an example for them without always telling them, maybe sometimes showing them. So it's with my kids, it's with my clients that I train. I wrote the book for my parents and everyone else. I learned a lot about this. I want other people to.
So tomorrow morning when I am about to go on the elliptical, I'm not going on, I'm going on the stair stepper because of Jenna
Yes.
Wolf. Thinner in 30, small changes that add up to big weight loss in just 30 days.
Do
You
it.
are terrific.
Thank you.
And by the way, your problem is that you don't have enough energy.
I know. I got to really just amp it up
you.
a little bit.
That was
Thank you
great.
very much.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Wells Fargo, Caldwell University, Suez, ready for the resource revolution, Hackensack Meridian Health, Hackensack University Medical Center Foundation, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, and by Century 21 Construction. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.